If you're getting bored of the paint colors you've been using in your home, that's a pretty good sign that maybe it's time to change things up. And I know for some people, change is scary because we're all just creatures of habit. But today, we're gonna break some of those habits. In this video, I'm going to teach you 3 simple ways to broaden your color palette so your home will feel fresh and exciting again. If you enjoy videos about painting and decorating, ideas and opinions, consider subscribing as we put out several videos a week on the subject matter. First of all, what do I mean when I talk about broadening your color palette? The simple answer would be it's the paint colors that you've been using in your home, which can also be the sorts of colors that you tend to gravitate towards by default. So it's not necessarily the paint colors themselves, it's the ideology in yourself that causes you to pick those colors. This could be for a number of different reasons. Maybe you genuinely enjoy these colors and you like how they look and they seem to work for you in the grand scheme of things. Well, somehow I'm a bit skeptical on that because you obviously clicked on the video, so something in your belly is urging you to change things up. I find that a lot of people use similar colors because they're resistant to change, and it's what they're used to. It's much easier to just use another light gray or beige on top of an older light gray or beige because you have a pretty clear understanding of what you're going to get. It's way less intimidating to utilize these neutral colors because they're going to be easier to work with for a greater number of people compared to ones that are maybe more saturated. But what's fun about easy, right? Easy is fine, but it's not really rewarding. So assuming you're ready for a little bit of a change with your color palette, I wanted to provide you with 3 methods of incorporating additional or altogether new colors to add more depth to your home. And you don't necessarily need to think of these as paint colors alone. They could be present in your accessories, your furniture, some textiles, area rugs, all of that. Which leads me to my first method, and that is to start small. There's no harm in introducing new colors in teensy weensy little doses, like the odd accent wall here or there, or even a couple of fun throw pillows, or a wonderful piece of artwork that reminds you of one of your favorite places to visit. I would say this is going to be the easiest way to expand your colorful horizons because you can do it for relatively small amounts of money and little to no effort, really. You don't even need to open a can of paint if you don't want to. So let's assume that you're starting with maybe a bunch of gray in your home, right? Because a lot of people are coming from a very neutral color palette, whether it's beige, gray, taupe, or any variations of the sort. So something simple to change things up would be to add a colorful throw blanket to inject some color, like this blanket that I have right here, which is actually technically called a tartan rug, as the Scots like to call it. It's clearly quite colorful, but it also has a lot of meaning behind it because it's the same tartan that I'll be wearing at my wedding coming up. So there's a little fun fact. So not only can you add something like this to break up the monotony of neutral walls and furniture, but you can also have some added sentimental value put in. It's also a good conversation piece and can easily be an inspiration to some potential paint colors that I can add later on down the road, extracted from this. If I'm feeling fancy, I can go with maybe a purple accent wall, or I could even be a little more conservative and utilize maybe some of the navy blues in here, or a bit of this forest green here, or even some of this off-white, which I have already used. But it just goes to show that you can take one of those important pieces in your home that really means a lot to you, and then allow it to inspire your color palette. So you don't necessarily need to burden yourself with picking colors from thin air, seemingly. You can use ones that are already there. So that was the first method, starting small, starting with a piece or 2 to add little pops of color here and there. Now, what if you were looking for some paint colors that were different from what you're used to? My recommendation to a lot of you watching would be method number 2, which is to start soft. With the thousands of paint colors that exist within each different paint company, there are a myriad of options at your disposal. There's all kinds of reds and pinks and blues and greens and golds, whatever. And they all have varying levels of intensity and depth. A great starting place for those of you that are looking to broaden your color palette is to look into nearly neutrals. And these are the colors that are on the border of feeling muted and neutral, but still have more of an apparent color hue coming through compared to a straight up grayish, which of course is gray and beige. Instead, you can opt for something like greenage, which essentially is one of my made up color names for a greeny grayish, kind of a light, warm sage color. Or you can go for something like a soft, dusty rose that is a combination of a light pink and maybe a bit of gray. Even a cooler blue-leaning gray could work as well. A lot of these pastel colors or these more muted, desaturated paint colors can help bridge the gap of an otherwise completely neutral, boring color palette, I guess you could say, more towards those color hues that you're truly gravitating towards. So you don't need to go full bright colors all the time. You can have that middle ground as well. Because they're not going to be quite as vibrant and saturated as their more pure color counterparts, I guess you could say, they are actually going to be easier to incorporate in those larger areas of your home, like on the walls inside. So now you're not just limited to an accent wall or a rug or a fun floor lamp, for example. These are colors you can paint your living room with, your dining room, and they're gonna be more than just gray or beige or all these colors that you're maybe trying to get away from. They might contain a bit of gray or beige, but they also have that extra bit of color that differentiates them. The third and final method is probably the most fun one, a little more daring, you could say, and that is to simply start saturated. Right from the get-go, you can dive right in to the wonderful world of color and start filling your home with big, bold, and beautiful paint colors. This will require you to take a bit of a leap of faith, especially if you were someone that's been using the same sorts of colors for the past decade or so, but the big payoff is your space will feel completely new and different. My recommendation, however, is to avoid making a decision just to be different, like just to sort of be contrarian to your own previous color beliefs. I find it helps to have some semblance of direction, something that pulls you towards those new, dark and daring colors. Maybe your new job allows you to sleep in a bit later, so that invigorating creamy yellow you painted your bedroom with has lost its purpose. Maybe you don't need to be quite as invigorated in the morning. Perfect reason to turn your bedroom into a cozy cave with a much darker, dramatic color like shadow, for example, or something like what I have behind me. So not only can you be inspired by important items or mementos within your home, you can be inspired by lifestyle changes, but also I'm often inspired from what I see online these days. Here are some fun color pairings that I put together that can hopefully get your gears turning a little bit. Just have fun and change things up a little bit.